Have you ever been confused by consent before?
There have been instances where, in terms of friends, relationships, whatever, I can go too far because I misinterpreted consent, and just because people seem comfortable with something, you kind of go along with it. Yeah, I think the reason I said yes was just thinking very specifically about a situations where both of us have been really drunk or something like that, where it's like, it's not one person's sober and the other person's drunk and the drunk person's saying yes, but if you're both drunk and both consenting and into it in the moment, and then the next day, like, I've had like neither of us really consented, is anybody in the wrong here, and so that's kind of what I thought of when I heard I've been confused about consent.
I think that is another sticky situation where, like, if you're not sober and the other person is not sober, the consequence is quite high. Why I wouldn't even risk it. But a lot of people, just like you mentioned before, they take regret as not consent. Maybe they agree, but they regret it, so they said they not consent.
Yes.
Yeah, so
that's true. I think a lot of people shift regret having sex with someone into
not agreeing.
Yeah, to not consent. I know people that have done that. I don't particularly like it. As someone that has given no in the consent. I have not given my consent before, so it does frustrate me to put a label on someone when they don't deserve it. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't particularly like it. But then I also think that if you're not mature enough to make those types of decisions, like, obviously everyone does something that they regret, but if you don't have the thought process to understand the repercussions of what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it. I live my life by that as best as I possibly can, and it sucks that people regret it and they don't understand how to decipher through their emotions. I used to think that regretting, if it was a kind of forceful situation, was not consensual, but I had a friend who had gone through a similar experience as I did, and she told me about a situation where she regretted it, and it was kind of like, she didn't like it, but she didn't stop it because she just didn't feel like doing that, and she regrets not stopping it completely, but she did allow it to continue because she knew if she had said no, he would have stopped. But there's a difference, she told me. And I was like, that still sounds kind of, not consensual. And she was like, what are you like, she was like, Lindsay, like, there is a complete difference, right? She was like, I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly that I could say no and that it would stop. I just didn't feel like doing it. And I felt uncomfortable in the situation, yeah, but I also chose not to say no. That's what she told me, like, and I completely, and she was, in my opinion, right about that, right? Because in that guy's mind, his intent was not to take you without consent, right? In that guy's mind, like, oh shit, she said yeah, right? He just didn't realize that she didn't really like it, that he wasn't very good at it, right? And there's a difference. And my friend had that conversation with me, and now that I've gotten older, I think, yeah, like, those labels shouldn't be put on people if it's something to do with regret.
Yeah,
there's a defining moment.
Yeah.
And I think that what sucks is that here in America, people are obsessed with how many partners they've had. I don't know if you know this. Like, a lot of, I know a few people, a few women who have lists. Their list of people that they've been with, right? They have a full-on list.
They're proud of that?
There's the list that they're proud of, and there's the list of they're not proud of.
I mean,
And
both
they-
lists is still not about.
And they don't tell their next partners of the list that they're not proud of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like you're bragging to me. But they are taking on their own risk. You know, women have more to lose. Like they can become pregnant and such in the way that, I don't know. That's not a smart choice to do.
To each their
It's
own.
not as much in the moment, but after the fact in that scenario.
Jack, that situation is pretty scary because you interpret it one way, and if someone was hurt and you didn't mean to do that, and you didn't take the precautions for that, you're still at fault. And that sucks. And I'm not saying that's your situation.
Yeah.
That's that kind of world we live in, where we can really get in trouble sometimes, even when we don't mean to hurt others, and it sucks.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing about consent is it's not always just like this guy being like, oh, come on, like, you know, there's such a finer line. There's so many gray areas that.
I think that this proves the point that if you can't communicate correctly,
Then don't do it.
yeah, then you shouldn't be having sex. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, if you cannot communicate to your fullest ability of what you want and what you're gonna do, then you shouldn't be doing it. Like, remember you thought it was funny that whenever I would go on a date with someone before I met my husband, I was always completely clear before the date.
You said, I'm not going to have sex with you tonight. You know that, right?
No, like, I hope you understand that.
Oh,
Like, I don't want you to
Expect something.
Yeah, I don't want you to expect something that's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
That is explicitly not happening tonight. And I don't know if it's happening later. It's not my problem if you assume differently. I told you. I also pay for myself. I would pay for myself to make sure that it was defined, right? What is it called?
People will just take a full-on advantage of it
Yeah.
to have a free dinner.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to have
I'm sorry.
those conversations because, yeah, there can be so many different scenarios that are still non-consensual. So
Women have